Alrighty, welcome to our adult Sunday school class for our last Sunday in February, February 22nd, 2026. We are going through the Bible timeline and have arrived in Numbers chapter 25. So if you want to take a look over there. So at this point in time, we're at the tail end of the year 1407 BC. So what does that mean? That means that at this particular snapshot, moment in time, we are in what's referred to as Middle Bronze Age, and that's a layer or level 2B, getting into the nitty-gritty of that. Let me get my screen share going here. And so with that, we have over in China, they're being led right now by Emperor Y. Ren of the Shang dynasty, which is their second dynasty after the Xia dynasty. Here in Egypt, they're being led in their second intermediate period by Pharaoh Mibri Sheshi, who's of the 14th dynasty. This 14th dynasty is early Hyksos or lesser Hyksos. They are outside foreigners, and they're able to come in and dominate because Egypt is devastated after the Exodus events, the plagues and the loss of the army in the sea and all of that. So they are over here, and they've got their mix of folks, including the Amalekites who fought Israel as they were leaving Egypt. Amalekites making their way in, amongst some of the others. Babylon is being led right now in their old kingdom by King Ammi-Saduga, and the Lord's people are now at a place called Abel Shittim over here. So they've gone forward from Kadesh. Here is the Dead Sea. Here's the Jordan River. Here's the Sea of Galilee. So they've conquered all this land over here on what's referred to as Transjordan, across on this side of Jordan. The Promised Land is on the west side of Jordan. And so they are settling over here, and they are specifically at this place named Abel Shittim. So we'll zoom in, kind of get that spot. So we are right over here. And so for perspective, there's Jericho right there where they will be heading. So we've got Abel Shittim and Jericho right there. So with the Lord's people here, assembled on the plains of Moab here, specifically Abel Shittim here, we have in the tribe of Judah, the line of Christ, we have a gentleman by the name of Salmon. In this generation, remember the old generation has now died off with the exception of 3, Moses and Caleb and Joshua. So in the younger generation, we have Salmon, who I'm putting at about 19 years old. He is the 29th generation of Adam, and he will be father to Boaz and will be second great-grandpa to David. So we are coming off with the Lord's people here in the plains of Moab. They had just had some adventures with those Moabites to where one of the kings of Moab had tried to get a hold of a prophet from way up north and the king Balak tried to have the prophet Balaam come and curse Israel because they were getting kind of nervous about them. And that didn't work out too well. And he ended up blessing Israel 3 times. And so I go to what I referred to at the end of last week as Plan B. So since Plan A, cursing Israel, did not work, we now have Plan B that sadly did work to some extent. And so we'll take a look at see what was happening here. So this will bring us to Numbers chapter 25. Let's look at the first 9 verses. Numbers 25, verse 1. While Israel remained at Shittim, the people began to commit infidelity with the daughters of Moab. For they invited the people to the sacrifice of their gods, and the people ate and bowed down to their gods. So Israel became followers of Baal, of Peor, and the Lord was angry with Israel. And the Lord said to Moses, "Take all the leaders of the people and execute them in broad daylight before the Lord, so that the fierce anger of the Lord may turn away from Israel." So Moses said to the judges of Israel, "Each of you kill his man who have become followers of Baal of Peor." Then behold, one of the sons of Israel came and brought to his relatives a Midianite woman in the sight of Moses and in the sight of the whole congregation of the sons of Israel, while they were weeping at the entrance of the tent of meeting. When Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, saw it, he rose up from the midst of the congregation, took a spear in his hand, and he went after the man of Israel into the inner room of the tent and pierced both of them, the man of Israel and the woman, through the abdomen. So the plague on the sons of Israel was brought to a halt. But those who died from the plague were 24,000 in number. We'll pause right there. So that happened. Yeah. So the cursing of Israel didn't work, but the women of the Moabites, and we see Midianites as well. Moab's up here in the north, Midian down in the south, where Moses had hung out for 40 years. So Moab reached out to Midian to work together against the common enemy here, the Israelites. And so, as we're told, they committed infidelity, unfaithfulness with these daughters of Moab. For these Moabites invited the Israelites to the sacrifices of their gods. So what was their response? They came and they ate the sacrifices to their gods and they bowed down to their gods. And as verse 3 says, so Israel became followers of Baal of Peor. Yes, that is the same Baal we've talked about on Wednesdays. The Baal of the Mesopotamian pantheon of gods, there's Baal, Ashtoreth, and Molech. And so Baal is the anti-god, if you will. Ashtoreth, his consort, as we talked about, the sexual licentiousness and all that. And then Moloch, the child sacrifice after that. And so here they are, accepting this invitation, partaking at these events, and becoming followers of Baal, after the Lord had just, through the prophet, blessed them 3 times. So the Lord was angry with Israel. We can imagine. So what happens? Lord tells Moses, take the leaders and execute them, broad daylight, in front of everyone, to quell and quench the anger of God here. This can't stand. We got to do something about this. And so Moses tells the judges of Israel, okay, go get them, the ones who have become followers of Baal here. Then we're given a specific example in verse 6, kind of walking through this here, where one of these men of Israel, while all this is going on, it's one thing to be bad enough to be invited over there to their parties and partake in sexual unfaithfulness with these foreigners contrary to God and be worshiping these false gods contrary to God. But this guy doesn't stop there. This guy comes home while, it says, in the sight of Moses and in the sight of the whole congregation of the sons of Israel, while they are weeping at the entrance of the tent of meeting. While people are tore up over what's happening, he comes waltzing on in with this foreign godless woman, takes him right into their house, and takes him right in their campgrounds, takes him right into the tent there. So what happens? We have in verse 7, Phinehas, son of Eleazar, son of Aaron the priest. So Aaron was Moses' brother, the high priest. He's died. Now his son Eleazar is the high priest in Aaron's place. So Phinehas is the grandson of Aaron. Phinehas is the son of the current high priest Eleazar. So Phinehas goes up, grabs a spear, and pierces both the man and the woman through. And because of Phinehas' action, we're told in the end of verse 8, the plague was brought to a halt. So that stopped it. That stopped the plague of death that was happening across the camp of Israel. And how bad was the end result? Verse 9, we're told 24,000 lost their lives in the wrath of God as a result of what they did. So I'll think about all that. That's a lot of people.
Don't make God mad.
Don't make God mad. Yeah. All true statements. Yeah. And keep in mind, I want to continue to remind ourselves of this. The nation of Israel, the congregation of Israel, these are people who had voluntarily vowed themselves to God. Through Mount Sinai and at the marriage covenant there, the betrothal engagement and all of that. And still, they have faithfully signed up for service, and they knew the consequences of what they were signing up for. And so there's nothing that is contrary to free will. There's nothing that is just God being a bad God. This is a case of they agreed, signed on the dotted line, that they would be faithful to God on penalty of death. Well, here we go. So they can't complain. They got what they signed up for. As severe as this is. They did bring it on themselves, and they didn't have to voluntarily sign up for this, but they did, and they chose to. So we're told in Ecclesiastes 5, better not to make a vow than make a vow and not pay it, especially a spiritual one to God. Yeah. So big deal here, huh?
Yeah. I'll say, well, there's always God is trying. Satan, evil, is always trying to get the people. He's trying to get them all before they get to what God promised them in the beginning.
Wow, that is a powerful observation, Sister Leslie. Satan is trying to get them before they even get to what God has waiting for them. Wow.
That's what it seems like.
You're right.
He's there along the whole way, even though God's above them, showing them where they're going.
Yeah, God's above them, showing them where they're going. And yet here's Satan all along the way trying to trip them up. What does the New Testament tell us about Satan? The roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. And what do we see in the nature films? That when there's animal pack, what do the predators do? They look for the stragglers, the old and the young and the weak and all that stuff in the back. And they don't charge the leaders in the front. And so, so they try to hit them in their weak areas. So since the Moabites and the Midianites couldn't get the prophet to curse Israel, here was plan B. Well, let's hit them in a weak spot. Well, men have a weakness for women, so let's send our women to take advantage and lure them away. So there we go. We can hold our place there in Numbers 25. Let's go a couple chapters over to verse 31. So, since we've talked about Balaam the prophet and his relationship with God, his claim that God was his God, he could only say what God was going to say, and he could only do what God tells him to do. So he seemed like he might be an okay guy. But then we get to chapter 31, skipping ahead here. Look at verse 16. Look what Moses says about what just happened here, looking back. Numbers 31:16. Talking about the women here and what happened here. Numbers 31:16, Moses says, behold, they, those foreign women, caused the sons of Israel through the counsel of Balaam to be unfaithful to the Lord in the matter of Peor, so that the plague took place among the congregation of the Lord. So whose idea was it to send the women? It was Balaam's idea. He told the Moabites, well, I can't curse Israel. I have to bless them. But here's something you can do. Go send your women. It was that same guy's idea. So however godly he may have seemed, he's my God, and I can only say what he says and do what he says do. This didn't come from God. And so Balaam is not the wonderful, godly guy he may have presented as before. Even though God was communicating with him. Even though God was using him. And the donkey talked to him. What more do you need? If that won't convert you, what will? And so, sadly, to Sister Leslie's point, he was right. That, hey, here's how you can nip at them. Here's how you can hobble them. Here's how you can weaken them. Because you are threatened by them. Well, here's a radical thought. If God is truly with these people and they can't be cursed, they can only be blessed, how about join them? If you can't beat them, join them. If their God's that powerful and good, how about not be on the opposite side of that God, just like Gamaliel counseled the Jewish leaders with the young church and the apostles? Yeah, there's that option. But no, sadly, in this case. And so let's also go to Revelation chapter 2. Revelation chapter 2. In the message to Pergamum, let's look at the first few verses. Let's pick up in verse 13. I know where you dwell, where Satan's throne is, and you hold firmly to my name, did not deny my faith, even in the days of Antipas, my witness, my faithful one, who was killed among you, where Satan dwells. Verse 14. But I have a few things against you, because you have some there who hold the teaching of Balaam, who kept teaching Balak to put a stumbling block before the sons of Israel, to eat things sacrificed to idols, and to commit sexual immorality. So you too have some who in the same way hold to the teaching of the Nicolaitans. Therefore repent, or else I'm coming to you quickly. I will wage war against them with the sword of my mouth. One who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says to the churches. To the one who overcomes, I'll give some of the hidden manna. Give him a white stone, new name written on the stone, which no one knows except the one who receives it. So even in the last book of the Bible, even all of these, so we're in like 1407 BC, so we're like 1500 years after the event of Balaam, he's still being mentioned. And some things are happening in the New Testament churches at the time of John's writing this, around the year 96, that are hearkening back to Balaam and his counsel to be distracted from God by falling into the worship of these false gods and the sexual immorality with these godless foreigners. And so he's saying, you've got this same problem happening right now. And so this isn't just an Old Testament, ancient Israel, Middle Eastern thing. And so this can happen with New Testament churches, where, let's talk about that. So, it's not likely that someone in a New Testament church in America, like ours right here, is going to say, I think that Baal guy is kind of just getting a bad rap. I think he's misunderstood. I'm going to kind of check him out a little more, and I think I might go be pro-Baal. I don't see that happening with a lot of New Testament church members. I don't see a lot of New Testament church members saying, wow, that chick over there who's a Baal worshiper, I think she's got some things in the right place, and so I'm going to go hang with her and get involved with her and follow her into Baal worship. I don't think Baal and Baal worship is on the top of people's minds when they are seduced away from the church. But is the end result not the same? And just because Baal or Satan are not mentioned out in front, does that mean they're not the demons and spirits are not there behind the scenes? And so the names and the references and the adjectives and descriptions might change, but the spiritual MO, method of operation, and game plan hasn't changed. And to Sister Leslie's beautiful point, while the Lord is trying to take us to a promised land He has waiting for us, while our salvation is secure, we're talking about the bridal city kingdom for faithful servants who've made a covenant commitment, just like the congregation of Israel, the congregation of the Lord's people. So, what do forces opposed to God want to do? They want to hurt Him by hurting His people and taking us out. Satan's still that roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. And so just as he did there, he wants to do with us. So we have an enemy wanting to seduce us away from where God is wanting to take us and bless us. So don't think, while this Baal stuff might seem obvious and a non-issue for us, don't think it can't happen or hasn't happened or won't happen. So we have to not be paranoid, but know the enemy, know thy enemy, know how he works, and guard against that. And know where our allegiances, our loyalties, our faithfulness, and anything that would take us away from that or distract from that, recognize right away, okay, that's the red flag right there, ain't doing it, ain't going there. The fact that Israel got this invitation in the first place. Hey, come to a party. Parties sound great. Oh, what kind of party are we talking here? Oh, we're going to be having some Baal worship and orgies. But other than that, it's all good. Yeah, I think I'll pass. And so don't allow ourselves to be seduced from what we know is right and true. I'm not talking we can't have fun. I'm not saying that, what's the old mantra? If it hurts, it's good for you, and if it's fun, it's a sin. No, we're not talking that. We can enjoy life. Life was meant to be enjoyed, but in godly perspective and godly dignity, and not contrary to the author of life. Imagine that all makes sense. All good there? Okay, so let's get back to Numbers 25. And how are things gonna go from here? Numbers 25. We'll pick up in verse 10. So what are they going to do about this? Numbers 25:10. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Phinehas, the son of Eleazar, the son of Aaron the priest, has averted my wrath from the sons of Israel, in that he was jealous with my jealousy among them, so that I did not destroy the sons of Israel in my jealousy. Therefore say, behold, I am giving him my covenant of peace. And that shall be for him and for his descendants after him a covenant of a permanent priesthood, because he was jealous for his God and made atonement for the sons of Israel. Now the name of the dead man of Israel who was killed with the Midianite woman was Zimri, the son of Salu, a leader of a father's household among the Simeonites. And the name of the Midianite woman who was killed was Cosbi, the daughter of Zur, who was head of the people of a father's household in Midian. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Be hostile to the Midianites and attack them, for they have been hostile to you with their tricks, with which they have deceived you, in the matter of Peor, and in the matter of Cosbi, the daughter of the leader of Midian, their sister, who was killed on the day of the plague because of Peor. So now it gets even more closer to home and personal, because we've got the names of the man and the woman involved. These were real human beings here. This really happened. And so the Lord is saying here, okay, first off, his promise to Phinehas in verse 12. I'm giving him my covenant of peace for his descendants after him. Permanent priesthood. What God is saying there is, from Moses' brother Aaron, who was the first high priest, to his brother Eleazar, now that Aaron's dead, to Eleazar, who's now the high priest, his son Phinehas, who did this, who performed this act of faithfulness to God, God is saying, for your generations on down, you are going to have the high priesthood. That priesthood is for you and your direct descendants, carrying on down here. And so a permanent priesthood because of Phinehas' zeal for the Lord. Why are the Levites set aside, which they're all from the tribe of Levi, Moses and Aaron and Miriam, their family is all from Levi. Why are the Levites set aside? Because the tribe of Levi did the same thing that Phinehas did here back at the golden calf incident. When Moses came down, he said, okay, who's on the Lord's side here? And the tribe of Levi came to him. He said, okay, each man slay his brother. And then that plague was stopped. And so the Levites, because of their zeal for God, were set aside for a special place of service. There's the high priest responsibilities and the priesthood of the other descendants of Aaron, besides those in the direct line of Aaron, Eleazar, and Phinehas on down. And so there's that priesthood, but then there's also the Levites as well. And a beautiful analogy has been given of, think of the Levites as deacons. Those who, they provide a service, a benefit, by taking care of the practical details with the tabernacle and all the instruments and all the accompanying things there, while the priesthood does their responsibility as well. And so the Levites aren't given a specific tribal area like the other tribes are. The Levites are actually given cities throughout all the tribes, so they can be a blessing and a benefit throughout them. The Lord even says, I am their inheritance. They're not going to have a land inheritance. So beautiful thing. He even talks about in Malachi how the man Levi was faithful to him. And now Levi kind of missed out where he and Simeon took revenge, a very bloody revenge for their sister Dinah, and how basically Christ is going to come through the tribe of Judah, because Reuben blew it, Simeon, Levi, so number 4 was Judah. Christ comes through Judah. As we have Salmon now, who's going to marry Boaz, and they're going to have, Salmon's going to marry Rahab, they're going to have Boaz, who's going to marry Ruth, and then on to David, and then on to Joseph, the father of Christ. And so we see the Lord honoring the faithfulness for generations. So a beautiful thing, as each one keeps their faithfulness to him. So it's available. The blessings are there, but also the consequences, as we see as well. So the Lord says, these guys have made themselves hostile to you, so it's okay to be hostile against them who have made themselves hostile to you. As far as protecting and guarding what you have here, you got to take action on this. So all good on Numbers 25 there? All right. Well, they don't take action right away. A couple things happen, which brings us to Numbers 26, which we're not going to read all of. Numbers 26 is the new numbering of the people. Notice the name of this book is Numbers. What does chapter 1 start with? Numbering of the people. The bookends of the book of Numbers are numberings of the people. There's the generation coming out of Egypt, the generation that will be going into the promised land and the numbers of those generations. And so the census is taken. So we'll pick up in the first few verses to describe it, but we're not going to read the whole chapter. Numbers 26, verse 1. Then it came about after the plague that the Lord spoke to Moses and to Eleazar the son of Aaron the priest, saying, take a census of all the congregation of the sons of Israel from 20 years old and upward by their father's household, whoever is able to go to war in Israel. Same criteria from the first one. So Moses and Eleazar the priest spoke with them in the plains of Moab by the Jordan at Jericho, saying, take a census of the people from 20 years old and upward, as the Lord commanded Moses. Now the sons of Israel who came out of the land of Egypt were as follows. And it goes on from there. So just real quick back on the map here. So here's the top of the Dead Sea. Here is Abel Shittim, where they are. Here's the Jordan, and here's Jericho, which will be the first place that they conquer with Joshua crossing the Jordan. So it says here, verse 3, so Moses and Eleazar the priest spoke with them in the plains of Moab by the Jordan, which is at Jericho. So this is right where they are here in this town known as Abel Shittim. So as they take the census of this new generation here, again, that's not too far above the Dead Sea here. And so first we have Reuben, and I actually want to pick up in verse 9 because it refers back to some events that we've covered here. Numbers 26, verse 9, the sons of Eliab, Nemuel, Dathan, and Abiram. These are the Dathan and Abiram who are called by the congregation who fought against Moses and against Aaron in the group of Korah when they fought against the Lord. And the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up along with Korah when that group died, when the fire devoured 250 men, so that they became a warning sign. The sons of Korah, however, did not die, which is very important because one of the future sons of Korah will be the prophet Samuel, who anoints David. So the blessings of the preservation there. And so we get the number in verse 7, 43,730 for Reuben. For Simeon, we're told in verse 14, 22,200. For Gad, we're told in verse 18, 40,500. For Judah, we're told in verse 22, 76,500. Issachar in verse 25, 64,300. For Zebulon in verse 27, we're told 60,500. Now Joseph gets two tribes because Levi is not getting an inheritance. So Joseph's two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, is each its own tribe. So of Joseph, Manasseh, we are told in verse 34, 52,700. And then Ephraim, through whom Joshua is in that line, verse 37, Ephraim has 32,500. Then in the tribe of Benjamin, we're told in verse 41, there's 45,600. Tribe of Dan, we're told in verse 43, 64,400. Then the tribe of Asher, we're told in verse 47, 53,400. Naphtali, we're told in verse 50, 45,400. So y'all been keeping up with the math, right? And so we're told in verse 51, these are the ones who were numbered of the sons of Israel, 601,730. Well, how does that compare with the first generation that was counted in Numbers chapter 1? Well, we're told in Numbers chapter 1, verse 45 and 46, so all the numbered men of the sons of Israel by their fathers' households from 20 years old and upward, whoever was able to go to war in Israel, all the numbered men were 603,550. So we're basically 2,000 less than they were when they started. So not too bad. And so if you've got 600,000 plus men who are 20 years old and upward and able to go to war, then think, okay, that's 50% of that of male and female. So you think equal number of females roughly, and then children and all of that stuff. So just like before, where we were estimating the number coming out of Egypt to Mount Sinai would be about 2.5 million, we can reasonably make the same equation for those who are in this new generation who've grown up or been born and are the children of the desert here getting ready to enter the promised land. So we've still got a large group here in this nation. So let's see here. Let's see, we've covered that stuff. Let's see, I want to go to, let's see, to wind things down here. Let's actually pick up in Numbers 26 in verse 54, when the Lord talks about how you're going to be dividing your territory. Numbers 26:54 says, "To a larger group you shall increase their inheritance, and to a smaller group you shall decrease their inheritance. Each shall be given their inheritance corresponding to the total of those who are numbered of them." So keep it even, Stephen, and realistic and fair. And so let's pick up in verse 63. Get the end of the chapter here. "These are the ones who are numbered by Moses and Eleazar the priest, who numbered the sons of Israel in the plains of Moab by the Jordan at Jericho. But among these was not a man of those who were numbered by Moses and Aaron the priest, who numbered the sons of Israel in the wilderness of Sinai. For the Lord said of them, They shall certainly die in the wilderness. And not a man was left of them, except Caleb the son of Jephunneh and Joshua the son of Nun." And also Moses, but who's not going to make it into the promised land of Canaan. Real quick trivia question: why are Caleb and Joshua the exceptions?
Because they obeyed the Lord. They wanted to do what the Lord said. They weren't afraid.
Amen. They wanted to obey the Lord and do what he said, and they weren't afraid. And specifically, they were 2 of the 12 spies who were sent to check out the promised land. Where the other 10 spies gave a bad report, "There are giants in the land, we can't do it." Joshua and Caleb said, "God can," and God says we can do it. So absolutely right, Sister Diana. So they're not under the curse of the generation that died. So we got 3 left: Moses, Caleb, and Joshua. Let's take a look at something interesting that then happens in chapter 27. So talking about this all inheritance and the sons and the numbers of the sons and all that stuff. What if you don't have these sons? Well, there's a thinker. What are we going to do? Numbers 27. Let's look at the first 11 verses. Numbers 27, verse 1. "Then the daughters of Zelophehad, the son of Hepher, the son of Gilead, the son of Machir, son of Manasseh, of the families of Manasseh, the son of Joseph, came forward. These are the names of his daughters: Mahlah, Noah, Hoglah, Milcah, and Tirzah. They stood before Moses, before Eleazar the priest, before the leaders, and all the congregation at the entrance of the tent of meeting, saying, Our father," keep in mind, these are the daughters talking, "Our father died in the wilderness, yet he was not among the group of those who gathered together against the Lord in the group of Korah, but he died in his own sin, and he had no sons. Why should the name of our father be withdrawn from among his family simply because he had no son? Give us property among our father's brothers." So Moses brought their case before the Lord. Let's pause right there. So not only within the different tribes, the 12 tribes of Israel, going to have their land lots apportioned to them, but then within the clans and the families of those tribes, they're going to be given what they're given. So, but you got this guy, Zelophehad, who's from Joseph's son Manasseh, through that line, and he died without sons. He's got these daughters who are named here. And so they go to Moses and the leaders and say, "Hey, why should our father lose his legacy because we're women? Because we're daughters and not sons?" Well, that's a thinker. So we're told Moses brings it to the Lord. Right answer. So what does God say about their case? Verse 6. "Then the Lord said to Moses," here's the Lord speaking, "The daughters of Zelophehad are right about their statements. You shall certainly give them hereditary property among their father's brothers. You shall transfer the inheritance of their father to them. Further, you shall speak to the sons of Israel, saying, If a man dies and has no son, then you shall transfer his inheritance to his daughter. And if he has no daughter, you shall give his inheritance to his brothers. If he has no brothers, you shall give his inheritance to his father's brothers. And if his father has no brothers, then you shall give his inheritance to his nearest relative. In his own family, he shall take possession of it. It shall be a statutory ordinance to the sons of Israel, just as the Lord commanded Moses." So, these women had a concern, and they brought it up. They were heard. They had enough standing, first and foremost, to present their case, be heard in their case, have their petition brought before God himself, and have God respond, and he ruled in their favor and said they were justified and they were right in this. And so God, out of this situation, which again he wasn't surprised by, he knew this was coming, he declares, based on this example here, this precedent, that here's how it's going to be going forward for anyone in this situation. Absolutely, they are not to be denied. And so they are going to be provided and given this, and recipients of this. So while sometimes there is a question or an accusation thrown at the biblical treatment of women and their rights or lesser rights, or this whole evil patriarchy thing, which godly patriarchy I'll take any day over government paternalism and dependency. But here we see they had a voice, they had a say, and they were honored and recognized as being right, and were honored and rewarded accordingly. So, and we have other cases of the treatment of women throughout the scriptures we will address as we go to as well. So while God has for men and women specific lanes to be in and specific roles and responsibilities within those lanes, it is not a lesser value. And here where they were in the situation, they were heard and recognized. And keep in mind, the Lord has directly interacted with, he had direct conversation with Hagar, the Egyptian mother of Ishmael. Thank you. I was wanting to say Ephraim, but that's the wrong word. Ishmael, thank you. And so, as the son of Abraham. And so God honored her. When Rebecca was dealing with the twins in her womb and fussing and fighting, God had conversation with her. So God often, as we see in Scripture, honors, hears and honors and recognizes women. They are of no lesser value. And so I think that's a very, very important to make here, and I really appreciate this example with the daughters of Zelophehad. Reactions, thoughts, observations on that from anyone?
Something that I don't even remember hearing about it.
Yeah. It's kind of a lost little nugget there hidden in chapter 27 there, those first 11 verses. Yeah.
Well, I made sure that they were equal and they were taken care of.
Exactly.
Without having a man present in their life.
Just because you don't have a man present in your life doesn't mean you're of lesser value or less deserving or anything. Yeah, no, they're given that equal standing. Absolutely right. Yeah, good stuff. So that is actually a good place to be calling it a class for here. And we will pick up, skipping over into chapter 28 with a couple things, and on from there. We notice they have not yet taken their revenge, if you will, or set things straight with what was done to them with the Moabites and Balaam. That will come a few chapters later, but God reminds them of a few things to keep in place before all that happens. So we will get to all of that, but in the meantime, that's a good stopping place for us for now. So we'll go ahead and stop our screen share. And we'll stop recording for this class, and we will get ready to go before the Lord in our praise and worship. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to, Brother Clay, I'm going to close out this Zoom and reopen a fresh one. You should be able to stay right there and get back on. Sister Ashley was having trouble logging on, so we'll see if that refresh helps her as well. And then we'll be all set for going into the singing and to the message. So we'll get this recording going, or get this Zoom going right back up here.